Hey guys, this is Noel Salas for the Surfboard Empire. Hey guys, welcome to Surf and Show. I'm Noel Salas, and today's surfboard review is on the JS Blak Box 3. Now I have two stock 5'7" coming in at 26.1 liters. I'm 5'9", 160 pounds. Now they're both in the HYFI construction. We have one in a swallowtail and we have one in a squash tail. Now this is gonna be a super fun review, so sit back, get your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Now, as we dive into the Blak Box 3, I want to first say I never had the privilege of riding the original Blak Box or even the Blak Box 2. And I really don't have an opinion on those first two models. But what I will say is that to learn about the Blak Box 3, I went to the JS website and I listened to Jason Stevenson break down why he thought they needed to come out with the Blak Box 3 on two boards that were already great sellers for them. Now, Jason mentioned some of the changes are in the outline, right? Wide point front from center, giving the board a little bit more foam up in here and making it a better paddler, right? A little bit less belly rocker, right? So we have a bigger sweet spot, more glide, and faster in small waves. Single to double, and then it's got a medium to low rail, and then making it available stock in both swallow and squash tail. Now that we've talked about the changes, I want to identify board category. The JS website calls it X Series. I like to call it small wave high performance boards. And if we look at the outline, it looks like a high performance shortboard, but they usually are shorter, wider, thicker, with a little bit less rocker. Sounds like the Blak Box 3. Jason talks about its wide point being a little front from center, giving it a little bit more foam and making it a better paddler. Now, what we're doing one by one here is checking off the small wave performance list that's really important. Is it a good paddler? Absolutely, right? He talks about it having a little bit less rocker. Does it carry the speed and the glide? Yeah, absolutely. I felt like this board did really well in speed when I look at the waves at the point break where I'm surfing in the pocket. It doesn't look like I'm working for speed. The board's there for me, so I can surf it as slow or as fast in the pocket and not look like I'm working for the speed that it's carrying. So it's built in the board, right? The other thing I want to mention is the medium to low rail. Whether it was choppy or it was nice and glassy, I felt like I could bury the rail and get the traction I'm looking for, even though it doesn't have a lot of rocker. Now, as we talk about this board being shorter, I like that it fits in the tight transitions that you would get in like a 1 to 2 foot wave, and it did that very well. Now, with it being 19¼ wide, that width is going to offer more surface area, right, which helps that concave work for me, creating more lift and giving me that speed. It offers a bit more stability, so the board's not too loose and it's not too tight. So these are the check boxes I'm talking about, and it felt great. And one of the waves that comes to mind was I'm surfing a beach break, I get a couple turns, the wave goes flat, and I need this board to carry through that flat section with speed because I can see another section coming at me. And I want to get to that section without having to wiggle too much. So the board did that very well. Now I want to talk a little bit about, it has that single to double. And Jason talks about the swallowtail going rail to rail real well, and it did. I felt like I had the traction I was looking for, both in the swallow and the squash. But now I want to talk about what both tails felt like. So all you guys out there that say you want to see some beach breaks, this is for you. Right? We're always surfing point breaks. You guys cry like babies. This is for you guys. Call out your name.
out there?
Yeah, so waves are pretty quick. You know, beach breaks are like that. Take off at an angle, get it going, and keep the board moving as fast as you can to get to the sections you want to hit. And sometimes when I get that wave, I'm projecting and doing floaters or speed snaps. Then you get to the section where you're finally at the end of it, and then the wave kind of dies out. But I really felt like the squash tail had good speed. And I've been really having a difficult time really feeling the difference between the squash and the swallow. So today I thought, okay, let's take the fins out. Let's put it in the swallowtail, and in the same session, same waves. That's really the best way to really feel the difference between both boards. And I'm really hoping that helps me really differentiate the two. I've been riding both boards at the point breaks, and I really can't feel too much of the difference like I was saying, but what I'm hoping for, what I think should happen is swallowtails are usually, they're a little bit looser underfoot, and they seem to have good hold at times, like switching from rail to rail. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. But like I said, it's been difficult to see the difference. But this will be the first session in the whole review process that I've actually got both boards down and switched, rode one for a little bit, and then come in and switch to the other. But for me, I chose the reactors because they're really super upright. And I really like these fins. I feel like they go rail to rail real quick, makes my turns fast, and it feels good in this board. We're out there.
So how was it out there on that?
Oh yeah, you know, tide came in. I was surfing the left early this morning. It was really quick and kind of closing out. Tide comes in. Now there's this little wedgy right, and two different waves. So it was really hard to compare the two. I don't know what it is. The swallowtail, they both go good, but I feel like the swallowtail is maybe not as responsive as the squash. When riding both boards, whether beach break or point break, my vote was squash tail. Now I want to talk about the fins I chose. And it really started when I first got the boards. When I put the 5.7 swallowtail under my hand or under my arm, I thought, man, this kind of feels a little bit on the heavy side for a stringerless EPS board. So right off the bat, I chose a fin that's a little bit more upright, more pivotal, right? So I grabbed the reactor, and right off the bat, what I was thinking is, how do I get this board in the lip as quick as possible, even though it feels like it's a bit on the heavy side? And you know what, when I was out surfing, it did feel heavy. Now, what's heavy? That's probably something we should talk about. What I did was I came home, I grabbed my UPS scale that's digital that I weigh packages on, and I put the board on there. Now, I took off all the wax, it has traction on it, and the board's completely clean, and it came in at 5.55 pounds. Now, where does that land in the grand scheme of things with all the other stringerless EPS construction boards out there? I weighed a bunch of other ones from a bunch of the different manufacturers, and they all came in at roughly 4.7 pounds to 5. The next thing I did was I weighed my Monster 8 in PU construction, and that came in at 5.6. So all this to say, the HYFI construction, both of them coming in at 5.55 pounds, weighed almost the same as my Monster 8 PU. And talking to the folks at JS, that's the whole theory behind their HYFI construction, is they want their EPS board to feel a little bit more like a PU, but have that pop and X factor that you get from an EPS. Now, my experience with both boards in overhead surf, it had that feeling that JS wants me to have, right? It had the solid feel in my turns like a PU with a little bit of extra pop that I would get from an EPS. But one of the things I struggled with is when I got into the 1 to 2 foot surf and I look at the footage, the board looks solid, it's got good flow, but it really looks like I'm having a hard time getting the board where I want it to in the pocket quickly. And we'll talk about that more when we look at some waves together. But those things that I'm mentioning right now really dictated that I wanted to ride it with a pivot fin. So as a thruster, I ran it with the reactor in both boards 95% of the time, right? And this fin felt great. Like I said, it's a pivot fin, so it's gonna get in the pocket quick and it's gonna help the board go rail to rail even faster. These fins felt great as a thruster. Then, as I stepped into maybe shoulder high, head high, I wanted to try the JS fin into medium. And what I'm looking for is just getting the board a little bit more playful. And I really felt like these didn't have the fin depth that I was looking for, but I still got a couple good turns on them. Then I wanted to ride both boards as a quad, and I spent most of the time with the squash tail board as a quad setup, and I ran the reactors, and it felt good there too. So for you quad guys, I really think that you'll like it both as a thruster and a quad running the reactors. Now, if you're a futures guy and you're gonna pick up one of these boards, what's comparable to the reactor as a thruster? The speed generating fin would be the HS1. This is a large fin and it has a little bit of extra pop or liveliness in your turns, and it will offer a little bit more projection in and out of your turns in small waves. These are some of my favorites in the futures lineup. And let's say you're a bigger guy or you don't like a speed generating fin, you can put in the new Legacy Series P8. And I also like this fin. This is honeycomb, so it's gonna offer a bit more consistency. And if you're gonna run it as a quad, you can do the HS1 with the Hayden-shaped quad rears. This is both a large, and this is kind of like a medium large quad rear set. It's actually got a good amount of length into the water. So those are the fins I ran, and that's why. Now let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of the construction being a little bit on the heavy side, right? There's a lot of guys out there that don't like to ride EPS boards because it offers chatter, or there's a lot of hopping or vibration, especially when you start to get a lot of speed. And I mentioned that with that medium to low rail, the board really sat down in the water on my turns, and that extra weight, especially when the waves got bigger, the board felt solid. So for you guys out there that have ridden EPS boards in the past and you really don't like the feel of that chatter or super light feel underfoot, I think you'll really like the HYFI construction stock. Now, if you're like me, in 1 to 2 foot surf, I'm looking for the board to be a little bit lighter. I have a tendency to like my boards around 4.8 pounds, 5 pounds. And what I'm looking for is if that board's light underfoot, I can get up and get it going and get some speed down the line real quick. Or if I see a section and I hit it and I come off the bottom, I can get it back in the section again real quick. That stuff really matters. The other thing I noticed about the HYFI construction on these two boards is if I like my leaders to come in at around 25 and a half, 26, it's pretty true to flotation under when I'm paddling. Usually my EPS that come in at that high 4s or at like 5 pounds, they have that extra half a liter in flotation that I want in an EPS, especially in 1 to 2 foot surf. So if I like 25.5 liters, most other EPS stringless constructions, I can order it at 25. So for you guys looking to buy one of these boards, you can buy it across the board, whatever your normal PU is. Now I want to say this is a preference, and for you guys that like an EPS and you want it to be light, quick, and snappy, I don't feel like it offered that for me in 1 to 2 foot surf. I felt like it was better in the 3 to 5. I would even push this board a little bit bigger and say this board's a great daily driver / small wave performance board, but I probably would have went with a regular EPS or some kind of Team Light PU glass, or you can even order the HYFI construction and ask them to glass it lighter and get it about 5 pounds. So let's look at some waves together. We'll start with the smaller waves in the 1 to 2 foot range, and it's really about the board being heavier. The board's still drawing good lines and carrying good flow and speed, but I really feel like my turns are a tad delayed. The board's feeling like it's 5'7", and I'm trying to get it to fit. And it's more about the weight, not so much about the design, especially on that left right there. Now this right, I'm going fast. This turn felt great. There's some power there, but delayed on that turn right there. So let's look at the swallowtail on some waves that got a little bit more push or power to them. It's really solid off the bottom. I really feel like the board is throwing good spray and it has good flow, especially when the wave gets a little bit more hollow. Look at the drive down the line real well. Nothing real trick, but you can see because the board has weight, it's getting me where I want to go, and it's throwing a lot of water. That turn felt good there. Now in this little left right here, I feel like the flow is really good. Good combination. Tail gets loose, right back in the pocket again. But this turns a little bit slower as the weight of the board, I can feel it underfoot as the wave gets smaller. So let's look at some waves on the squash tail together. I really like the flow this board has, especially on this wave. Top to bottom surfing, not a lot of hesitation with a solid finish right there. Now looking at this right, cleaner. Nice top turn, throwing good spray, right back into the pocket again. This left, this is the beach break. You can see there's some wonk there, but the board feels solid. It's getting through that flat section, able to end that with some good speed. Now this little right, watch the spray here. Nice turn, board projecting really well. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's review on the JS Blak Box 3. For me on the X series, if we're comparing it to the Monster Box and the Air 17X, I really feel like the Blak Box 3 caters to that beginner intermediate all the way to expert levels, having really fun in that 1 to 4 foot surf, being the most user friendly. I really feel like the Monster Box more of a daily driver that really shines bright in 3 to 5. And then the Air 17X is kind of like that upper end intermediate all the way to like the Julian Wilson want to be competitive in 1 to 2 foot surf. That board needs to be surfed well, and it's a little bit more demanding, but it carries that speed that you'd expect out of a small wave performance board. Look guys, I hope you enjoyed today's review. If you like the show, subscribe. You can also find us at surfandshow.com. Special shout out thanks to the folks at JS for sending these boards down for review. Until next time, we'll see you in the water. Bye-bye.